Good morning! Okay, I am back. I got the building bug after yesterday's live stream, and so this morning we are leaving in just 2 hours. So I've got to make this short, like an hour and a half max. Still need to pack the car. I got my peppermint tea here, and I'm so excited to get back in on Gotta Lotta Lava. So, if you had joined us yesterday, you'd have seen the first bit of the creation of Gotta Lotta Lava, and today we're going to go add some extra features, which I think will be awesome to get to show you. First, though, I'm going to switch to our screen recording here, and now you can see this is the world. So, let me tell you about a little bit of the changes I've made. So number one, you can see that there's this lava glow across the whole world. So I added this glow light, that's the orange that you're seeing. And then we've also got a little like load-in zone here. So this little lobby, I built out all the walls and everything. And I added this text bit here that says jump in to encourage people to get in. There's this whole area along the outside that you can walk around. There's the spawn point there to come back and keep playing. There's all sorts of little like decoration areas on the sides for you to go and hang out. And I also set the texture. So in VR, if you open up the properties panel of these, there's a button at the bottom called Apply Current State. And so once the texture was applied, I applied the current state to lock all of these into the texture. That was because it was taking way too long to load, and then I was able to just turn off that line of code, so we're no longer setting the texture. Now if I hit play world, jump into preview mode, you'll see I've also decided to try third person. And if we jump in, there we go. You can see this is coming along nicely. The colors are random every world that's generated, which I like. And then they just kind of slowly go, just like yesterday. But you got the whole arena now, so it feels really well filled out. And I like that a lot. And we're going to try to stay alive. And I came up with a game idea that I think is going to work really well in this arena, which is going to, I guess, I didn't realize it when I came up with the idea, but it's definitely inspired by Fall Guys, where they have that area you have to stay in, and you want to stay, you want to stay in the arena for as long as possible. And so the idea is that until there are no people there, you're going to be able to keep jumping back in, and the amount of time that you spend on the floor playing and running around is how much time you've collected. And at the end of the round, whoever has collected the most time on the ground will be the winner. And then you're going to be able to just keep jumping back in. So that's pretty cool. So if we hit stop and play, we can try that again, and I'll try dying a few times. So if I come in here and then, oh no, I fell oh no, I fell into lava, then I can just jump right back in, and that's pretty cool. And so that's the idea behind, basically, you know, when you're making a mobile game, people don't want to wait another minute for the next game. And so you want to try thinking, how do you make your world fun to continuously play? And I think this is the answer. So the game really builds on that by saying, okay, I'm earning time right now, and then when I get out of here, that's my score. So that's pretty cool. No! So yeah, that's the basic premise of that. Let me see. I have this weird issue with the spawn point, as you saw. For some reason, it's spawning me to this one. This one's definitely not set to spawn on start. And then there's this one, which is set to spawn on start. Now if I hit stop, hit play, hit stop, hit jump into preview mode right now. Oh, it did bring me over here. What's going on? Play, preview mode. There it goes. It might have been that the trigger had been entered, like my build mode body might have entered the trigger, and that caused it to teleport me when I jumped into preview mode. Okay, cool. A couple cool things there in the lobby zone. I will show you. Ah, yes, because I'm below the world, because it keeps putting me below the world. Okay, but it didn't. Okay, so anyway, when you load in, you're loading in here. And there is a secret left path if you want to go this way. So once you know the world, you'll learn how to get to these areas if that's where you wanted to go. There's also a fun little hiding spot here where if you wanted to jump out and scare your friends, you totally could, which is kind of fun. And there's also that area there that you have to parkour to, which is kind of a, oh, can't get to it now. But there's like a lot of little like parkour elements to like practice all around this, which I find is a lot of fun. And then right here, we can jump over to this area, and there's like this special viewing area where you can look from this way, which is pretty cool. So yeah, there we go. And we'll zoom back out and stop the world. Okay, so that's what I did off camera. Okay, move that note around. And next up, we have this text, and it really should only be visible when you first get here. It should not be visible after you've jumped in. And so we're going to need to start tracking positions soon, because we also want to know if the players are in the game, and we want to start the game once there's a player in the game. So these things are all related. We also need lava sound effects, death effects, sound effects, haptics, random spawn. Let's start with the easiest thing, which is the random spawn point. So we have a spawn point over here. We're going to create a new script for it. So we'll go new script, and this is going to be called, this is related to respawning. And so these are kind of like game spawns. We're just going to call it spawn point underscore entity. In case we decide to have different types of spawn points, we can build from this script. All right, open an external editor. Let me move VS Code into place. There we go. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing as we always do, or at least as I always do. Get rid of these HCN dots, and then backspace the T, retype the T, click enter, and there we go. Add some space because I like space. We don't need a property for this. What we do need to do, though, is create a data file to store all these spawn points. And so we're going to minimize this for just a second, create a new file called spawn point underscore data, and enter, and then open an external editor. And then spawn point data won't have any of this in it. It's just going to have export constant spawn point underscore data, and that equals a JSON object. And then we're going to create a data that's stored inside of it. So this is const, and these are going to be these are the game spawn points. So they're the, like, maybe we'll call them death spawn points. It's not exactly what they are. They're respawn points that you go to when the game is in session. I don't have a death spawn point yet for like when the game is completely over, but that's because there isn't really one. So I guess it's fair to call these death spawn points, which equals, we'll first define the type. So we'll say colon, this is an entity array, so it's a list of entities, and then that equals an empty array or an empty list. And we'll just get used to using the word array because in TypeScript these are called arrays. We'll hit Control S to save. Now to export this, we just type it here. So we say death spawn points, and then comma, Control save. Nice. So now we have our death spawn points available everywhere. And so on our spawn point entity, we can, on start, oh, actually, let's go back there for just a second. Instead of saying it's a list of entities, let's say it's a list of spawn point gizmos. Let's be very specific about it. Control save. And then we'll come back over here and then say on, because we're initializing data, this is good to put in pre-start. And because pre-start's guaranteed to run before all the other entities start method. And so what we're going to say is spawn point data dot death spawn points dot push, and then we're going to say this dot entity dot as parentheses spawn point gizmo. There we go. All right, so we're saying spawn point data death spawn points add this dot entity as spawn point gizmo to the end of the array. Control save. Now we've got a list of all the spawn points. And if we go back to our script we were using to teleport when they entered the trigger, that's the lava trigger respawn, we had this lobby respawn point. We no longer need that, so I'm going to just backspace all of that. And then instead, we're going to need to teleport to a random spawn point. And to do that, we're going to use a special function that I gave you guys yesterday, parentheses, or I mentioned yesterday, that is available in the MHCP Discord. And it's called arrayutils. So we'll call arrayutils dot get random item from array, and then we need to pass in the array inside the parentheses here, which is going to be our spawn point data dot death spawn points, And then get random item from array returns either the spawn point gizmo or undefined if there's no items in the list. So currently there's no items in the list, so it'd return undefined. Then this question mark says, okay, well, there's nothing there, so we won't do anything. Now this was using this question mark basically returns undefined if this is undefined. Otherwise, it continues on with the rest of the line of code. Now we have specified that these are spawn point gizmos, so we don't need the .as anymore. We can delete that and just use .teleport player. Control save. Okay, so now that is set up, and we can head back into Horizon and attach this script. So we'll go down to the bottom, attach the spawn point entity script, and that is now set up. And then we can just duplicate those everywhere. And the main reason I built this arena in VR is it was way easier to build in VR. Like, it was still difficult. Like, it took probably an hour and a half to build this arena. It was a lot of work. But it's way easier than it is on the desktop editor because you have spatial, you can just walk around and place. So for now, we're not going to place too many of these. But in the future, I'll probably go back into VR and place these down like crazy. There we go. And Control D. Just go and put a few around the edges. Come on, this way. Getting these exactly where you want them can be a little difficult. There we go. And I do want them all to face towards the lava, so I'll rotate that. How are we doing? We got three. Is that enough? I don't think so. Control D. Okay, that's not bad. Okay, and then this guy's facing good, this guy's facing good. Do another Control D and slide. And at some point I'm going to build stuff up on these platforms. I don't know where yet, but there's going to be like leaderboards and all sorts of fun little things for people to do when they're not playing the game. There we go. And keep going. Control D. And so yeah, this is just a bare minimum in my mind of these that we can have, and then later on we'll add a lot more. Spatial reasoning is also a lot harder on the desktop than it is in VR because you don't have your perspective of two eyes. There we go. And I think that does it. We've got them, well, looks like we could probably use one more on this side. So let's duplicate them and slide them over. Control D, slide over. Yeah, right there should be good. There we go. Oopsie, come on. There you are. Nice. Okay, so now that we got that set up, we have that. Let's go ahead and play and try it out. Go hit reset one time and jump into preview mode. Here we are. And so, strange. Those are not spawn on start. It must be the trigger going off. That's my only explanation. Like, I must be entering the trigger, causing that to fire. So if I hit stop, and then play again, and then stop, and then play again, and then check console. Are we seeing those on the console? Come on. Weird. Normally that would come up. And clear. Okay, that's fine. Jump into preview mode. Still spawning me to the wrong spot. I don't know what's going on there. I don't think it'll be broken on publish. I think it's just broken right now for some reason. We have a Z-ripping there for some reason. Sorry, that's flickering warning, right? Gonna kind of have to go check that out in build mode. I didn't see that flickering earlier, so that seems strange. We are definitely going to different spawn points, right? So if I jump down, we're now, yeah, we're on the other side. Cool. Let's find that flickery one, figure out what's going on with it. So flashing warning for now. Is it real is kind of the question in my mind. Should be able to see it from underneath too. There it is. Is there actually two things here? I see. Stop world. I don't see two things here. Slide that down. Oh, there is two things there. Okay, fixed it. Cool. Alright, play, preview mode. Hey, okay, that time it worked. I don't know why, but now we're finally at the right spawn point. Okay, so we jump in, and yeah, fantastic. So random spawn points now implemented. Love that. And now we're going to stop the world. Mark that off our to-do list. So, done. Most time in turns into win. No active player stops the lava. So I did also want to make this game playable, right? Like I've been trying to show my daughter, she's two and a half now, and I think it's really cool to get to show her these little like games, and she's really fascinated by it. So the only problem is I can't replay it, so I only get that first 1.5 minutes to show her, and then the world's just dead and I have to restart it. So I really want to get that first game loop working, and to do that, we're going to have to think about what is this thing that's going to track. So we could call it a game manager, but in my mind, this is a position tracker. I try to be very specific with what the thing is doing. So this is a position tracking manager and underscore entity. And in fact, I'm just going to call it position tracking and remove the manager because that seems redundant. Position tracking underscore entity. There we go. Now, position tracking entity will need to be attached to something. We're going to need some scripts that I build quite frequently in my worlds. I didn't really want to get into those just yet, but I think it's time. So we need a let's rename this script. Position tracking is no longer an entity. It's going to be a function, a set of functions. So we'll get to that. I'm going to open this in external editor just to have the things open that we're going to need. And then Control A, backspace, Control Save, minimize. Okay, so then the next thing that we're going to be building is, because I remembered what I usually do is I build a game manager to add players to the player data lists. So I might not call it game manager anymore though, because it literally is just like there for player data. So I might call this player data underscore entity, because that's what it does is it creates the player data. And then we're going to need a player data file. And then we're going to need a player data definitions file, which defines what the data is. Defs. I think I call it defs, right? Why have I lost my brain here? Def or defs? Defs file. I'm pretty sure I use defs. Actually, I feel like I need to go check. Not sure why my brain can't remember that. Let's go right click, reveal in file explorer. Like I'm pretty confident I use defs as my definitions file, but just on the off chance that it's def, go to my most recent build, and the answer is should be one in here somewhere. There it is, defs with an S. Okay, cool. Cool. I feel better now. Okay, so we've got our player data defs, our data, and our entity. So the entity adds the player to the data. The entity starts up the position tracker. The entity starts the defs, or uses the defs for knowing what the thing is. So we're going to open up all these files real quick. Just dragging these to the top here. And then let's start by defining what the definition is. And so to do that, we say export type player data equals JSON object. And what that is going to include will be the player name, which is just going to be called a name to be short, which will be a string. And then we also want to know the current position. So we'll call this current position, which is a vec3. And I think that's kind of the main thing that we need right now. We'll probably add a lot more later. Control save. Yep. Okay. So now that we have this player data set up, we can create a data file, which will be similar to what we've created before. Export const, and this is going to be player data. And I actually usually just make this a single line. I don't put a bunch of things in it. It's not a JSON object like usual. It will still be player data map, which equals new map of type player map, which is the key, and the value is the player data. And so basically you can utilize player to get and player to set data in the map. And so we call the player the key, and we call player data the value. And so you use dot set, so you say player data map dot set, and then you pass the player parameter, comma, and then the data you want to set. And if you need to get it, you say player data map dot get, and you just pass the player parameter, and it gets their player data. It's really nice. Okay, control save. All right, and then here on the player data entity, we're going to do the usual component setup stuff. I have a default usually that I'll just copy paste from, but this isn't too bad. Okay, so now the first thing we need to do is connect some connect to some local methods. So we'll use pre-start for that. I prefer not to show the void, so I'm always deleting them. And then we're going to have player enter world parentheses player colon player and then curly braces, and then we copy that for player exit world, control C, control V, and then we'll change that to exit. There we go. And now we can go up to pre-start and connect those events. So we say connect code block event, parentheses, this dot entity, comma, code block events dot world, and we have on player enter world to our local player enter world dot bind parentheses this and semicolon at the end, and then control C, control V, and then just change this to exit on player exit world, and same thing here, exit. There we go, control save. All right, so now we have on player enter world and on player exit world connected. And so when the player enters the world, we're going to add them to the array, but let's do the exit first because it's easiest. And so we'll just say player data map dot delete parentheses player, and that deletes their data from the map. And on player enter world, we're going to do player data map dot set parentheses player, and then we need to pass in the player data. And so what I like to do before setting is to create it, because later on there's going to be so much data, it's going to get crazy. So we're going to say constant lowercase player capital data equals, and we have to declare the type is a player data, and then that equals curly braces, and we'll say name colon, and then we do player dot name dot get, and then comma, and then we need to know their current position, and current position is player dot position dot get. All right, and there we go. So now we've got our player data set up, and now we can set it in the map. So we'll just type in player data, and now on entering the world we have their data stored, and on exiting the world we delete that. Now during our start event we need to call our position tracking function. So we're done with this one, done with this one. Position tracking function doesn't have anything in it yet, so we're going to say export const position tracking underscore func, which equals bag of stuff, and then we're going to go create a function down here, which is going to be called function, and this will be called position tracking loop, and that's pretty straightforward, just simple like that. We'll then export it, typing position tracking loop, comma, Shift Alt F, reformat, Control S to save. We'll come and do stuff here in a minute, but first we're going to go up to this script, and on start we're going to call async dot set interval parentheses, and then we're going to call the position tracking function dot position tracking loop dot bind parentheses this, and then comma. The delay on this is going to be, I'm thinking we need to update this fast because they're going to be moving quite quickly. So at least twice per second, maybe 3 times per second. Let's go with 300 milliseconds. So we're going to update the player's positions every 300 seconds. So how do we do that? Well, in the position tracking position tracking loop, we're going to call player data map dot for each parentheses. We can then say for each player data, which has an associated player, we're then going to run an arrow function and then put semicolon at the end if you like semicolons like I do. And then we're going to say player data dot current position dot our space equals, and then we call player dot position dot get. And so now we're updating the player, we're updating every player's position during the game, and we're doing that 3 times per second. So we should have pretty accurate positions inside of our player data forever. So that's great. We might lower that down if we need to. I'm thinking this is going to be like a 16-player game max, so I'm not really too worried about this getting too intense. But yeah, so now we're tracking the player's position. So then the question is, we need to make sure that it doesn't start rising until there's actively players playing. And so we do need to figure out how to track the active players. And I feel like that goes into position tracking. So let's go create a position tracking underscore data file. So I'll go position tracking underscore data. And this data file ideally is going to store who is actively playing. But do we really want to create a list like that? We could just create a property in the player data. I think having it separated would be easier. So open an external editor and Control A, backspace, enter, export, constant, position, tracking, and then data equals curly braces, and then we need to create some data in there, which the first piece of data we want is the active players. We'll say constant active players is a player array. Man, do I really want to do this? I'm kind of thinking I don't want to do this. The more and more I think about it, the more and more I think this is the wrong approach. Yeah, this is the wrong approach. So we're just going to go Control Save and then go delete this file. So right here on the left, position tracking data, and delete. Move to recycle bin. Okay. So what we actually want to do is go back to our player data definition and create a new property called isPlaying. And isPlaying is going to be a Boolean. And Control Save. Now here when we create the player data, we need to define that. So we say isPlaying : is false, because they've just entered the world, so there's no way they're already playing. So Control Save that. Now in the position tracking function, we need to define where the play area is. And there's a very specific play area that I've defined in the world. And so we're going to create a couple variables right here, which is going to help us know where this is. So we're going to say constant y min, so we'll call this play area y minimum equals, and I think it's 3. We'll check in just a second. Control C, Control V, and then the maximum should be like 8. And then this would be the y maximum. Control Save. Okay, so let's go check those actual values out. And we can do that by going in here, and we know that the top of this lava is the lowest they could possibly be and still be playing. If they go below that, then they've died, right? So where is our, there's our trigger. I guess I can't see the lava because that's right on top of it. But what that does mean is if we go to the top of this and go to our lava group, we can take the lava group position of 1.5, and if we add to that lava group position with the position of the plane, which is 0, that's not right. Oh, it's up by 1. It's up by 1 on the z-axis, so it's 2.5. So the lava start position is 2.5, and so let's go back into VS Code. Oops, VS Code, there you are. And we're going to change this to 2.5. We're now going to go find the maximum. And so the maximum is defined as I have a low point, which I said, okay, we're never doing anything lower then I want to say it was one of these two. Yeah, that. So you can't have anything go higher than the top of this. So what I'm going to do then is just drag out a trigger gizmo, place it right on top of that. And so that represents the position, which is set to 9.6. And I can't imagine it even being like, yeah, there. So I guess as long as you're within, we'll call it 8.5. As long as you're within 8.5, then we know you are in the zone. So we'll call that 8.5, just in case they're jumping really high somehow. Okay. So then when we're going through the player's position, we can say, we have their position right there. And then we can say player data dot is playing is equal to, and then we're going to use create a Boolean here. So we need to know that the player, let's just fill in with some defaults. So this will be like the player's position. Let's say they're at 6. So is 6 greater than the Y minimum, so the play area Y minimum, and is the player's position of 6 less than the play area Y maximum? And then we just replace 6 with player data dot current position dot Y. Control C, Control V dot Y, and then Control C and Control V. Okay, so now we are saying that if this player, the player data is playing if the current position dot Y is greater than the play area Y minimum and they are less than the Y maximum. Control save. So now that we have that set up, we are now checking the Y level to know if the player is active. Done. And then the next thing I wanted to look at was how to use this. And we're going to use this real simple first, and then we'll use it on our lava loop. So the first way we want to use this is on our text. And so if we go to the text gizmo over here, I only want this to be visible if a player has not played the game yet. So we're going to create a new thing called jump in text underscore entity, and then open an external editor, backspace, and backspace, and backspace, and component. And now what we need to know inside of this jump entity text is the players who have played. So players who have played. And so players who have played is going to be a player array. So we'll type player array, which equals an empty array by default. Okay. And then players are going to be entering the world regularly. And we want the text to set its visibility. So let's create a loop here. So let's say loop, parentheses, curly braces, and then we're going to say start async dot set interval, parentheses, loop dot bind, parentheses this, and I'm missing a parentheses somehow. I got on the outside of this one on accident. Okay. And then comma, and we're going to run this only once every like 2 seconds. It really doesn't need to be run very frequently, so 2000. I want to make sure my other async was set up correctly. Player data entity is calling it every 300 milliseconds. Yeah, that one's good. Okay. So now loop is running every 2 seconds, and in loop what we're going to say is this dot entity dot set visibility for players, parentheses, and now we can set the players who have played, and then we're going to set it to be visibility mode. So we type player visibility mode dot hidden from, so that if you have played, you cannot see this. And then what we're going to do is need to remove these players when they exit the world from the array. So we'll say player exit world, parentheses player, colon player, curly braces, and then we're going to need to bind that. I'm just going to copy this one, player exit world, Control C, and then on pre-start, Control V, and enter. We need to re-import code block events, backspace S, click enter. Remove the void because I don't like voids. All right, looks good. I like to create double spacing around some of my stuff just to kind of differentiate the sections. Okay, so pre-start connects the player exit world, and on player exit world we want to say if parentheses players who have played dot includes parentheses player, and then we want to remove them if that's the case. So we do that by using my array utils dot remove item from array parentheses, and then the array is the players who have played array, and the item is the player. Here we go. So now we're going to remove the player if they were in the array, and in the loop we need to add them to the array. So now we're going to say player data map dot for each parentheses player data comma player. So we got those two values coming from the player data map, and then arrow function, add a semicolon because I like semicolons. And then what we can now say is if parentheses the players who have played dot includes parentheses player, and we're going to say if they does not include by using exclamation point at the beginning, so it says does not include player. Then what we want to do if it does not include the player is say if parentheses player data dot is playing, then curly braces. So if the player does not include the player, then if they are playing, we want to say players who have played dot push parentheses player. And so now we've added them to the array if they were playing and had not yet been added, and then we update the visibility after going through all the players. Okay, so text will now disappear, and we can go try that out. And I've done so much coding, so finally a nice little dopamine reward. Let's go click on the text, scroll down to the bottom, attach the text entity. We also need to create the manager, which was kind of debating if I like the color white. We'll stick with it for now. But we do need to create a player data manager, so we're going to create an empty object. I like to move these to 0, 0, 0, and then we're going to attach the script player data entity. It should be around here somewhere. There it is, player data entity. And there we go. Now we'll go ahead and hit play, jump into preview mode. I can see the text, nice. And then once I jump into play, if I look back, 1, 2. There it goes, nice. So after 2 seconds, it's removed me, and we're in the game. So now what we want to do next is make, ooh, is that a double up too? Okay, far left wall. Let's go find that. That's this one right here, isn't it? Can't believe there's so many. Am I looking at the right wall? Is it this one? So, and what happened is the textures were actually really difficult to get right. So I duplicated them. I can't figure out which one is the one that's broken. If I fly through here, you think I'd see it just like I saw it there. I swear it was on a dark tile. Maybe there's a different way to do this. Stop the world. We've got all of these here. There's a different way to view. If I hit the number 1 key, 2 key, 2 key on my keyboard shows me the geometry. Okay. And maybe I can see extra triangles. I don't think so. No, it's just too hard to read the lines. Number 3 key? Ooh, that might be easier to look at. Ah, there it is. Okay, found one. Delete. Basically, to get these to have the texture set was actually way more work than you could imagine. So I had to duplicate them and redo the building of the grid. I don't see any others. It was pretty easy to delete them, but so I'm surprised there was any remaining, but okay, cool, we did it. All right, switch back to view 1. So if I'm hitting 1, 2, 3 on my keyboard to switch between those views. There's 1, there's 2, there's 3. Is there a 4th? Ooh, there's a 4th. Is there a 5th? Wow, there's a 5th. Oh, that's the collider view. Is there a 6th? There is a 6th. I haven't tried all of these. Is there a 7th? No, okay. Back to 1. I stick to 1, but good to know that there's more. Okay, so next up what we want to do is make it so that let me check the time because I do have to leave. Oh, it's 8:30, okay. We're trying to leave here at 10, so I've got an hour and a half till we actually are out the door, but I do still need to pack, so, you know. I'm gonna take a sip of my tea too. Sorry, my throat's been congested the last couple days. I was listening to the video yesterday, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm coughing constantly. So I apologize for that. Ooh, ooh, ooh. What is wrong with this tea? Is it just mixing bad with my toothpaste? Oh, that is not, it does not normally taste that. That must be a mixture with my toothpaste in my mouth. Oh. Okay, that was not good. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is make it so the lava only starts rising once a player is in the playing field. And this is pretty easy to do. It's going to be very similar to what we already created. So our lava group entity has this motion starting on start. And our lava group is going to know who is actively playing. And we want to know how long they've played. So let's go back into our player data or defs and add a new tracker for current play time and set this to be a number. Control save. And then we'll add that in here. Current play time starts at 0. Control save. I also have a utility file in one of my worlds I'd like to go grab real quick. If you ask me for it, I will share it in the MHCP Discord. You can tag me at Lakes05. You'll have to apply to the MHCP, so for anyone watching who hasn't applied yet, link is in the description. And what we're going to do is go down to, I want to say the most recent version of this is going to be in Dungeons. This is a world I'm working on for release maybe early next year. We'll see when it comes out. Or maybe not. We'll see. I don't know. Life gets busy. So I've got this pop-up manager function, and if I Control-C this and head back arrow, and Control-V, pop-up manager function. I just want to call this pop-up function from now on, so I'm going to rename it here. And it's kind of a utility, actually, but we'll just call it pop-up func. And now we're going to go open up the pop-up func. And you'll see why I like this thing. So we don't need color data, do we? We really don't. We had background color using a gold theme. So there is no color data. Game manager data, what were you using that for? What were you using game manager data for? Oh, to get the component. I haven't set that up yet. There's a lot of things I usually bring in like 20 scripts, so this is kind of missing a few of them. We're going to do background color. Control-Z. Let's get the color data file. Game manager data. We need to create a game manager data. We can do that now. We don't have a game manager because there isn't a game manager in this. We do have the player data thing, which we're trying to do as our alternate to a manager. But I really want this, if I want this to be a utility file, then I'm going to need a separate piece for this. So let's focus on making this into more of a shareable than something. Like that's one of the problems with scripts is if you really network it into your scripts, it's harder for everyone else to use. Like you can't just copy and paste it as easily. So I'm going to change this up and say new color, and then background color I like to use for default Vidyuu worlds. I want to, oh man, I used to know this number by heart. I've lost it. I want to say it's like 0.1, 0.4, 0.7. I think that's it. And so that creates what I call Vidyuu blue. It's like a cyan-y blue. It's really nice. Shift-Alt, it's a light blue. And I really should define that somewhere, which is why I was going to create the color data file. But for now, this is just creating a default that we can utilize later. So we have our VR pop-up options, our cross-screen pop-up options, which we can differentiate if needed. And the game manager data we're going to get rid of. And we're going to instead go back into Horizon, create one more script, which is going to be called popup underscore data. And we're also going to need to make popup underscore entity. And then we'll back into VS Code and work on these. So we need to go into popup data and then Control A, backspace, export, constant, lowercase, popup data equals JSON object, create some data in here, constant, component, is of type component, or undefined, and I gotta make that a let. There we go. Now we can export component, Control save, and then we can go to our popup entity, format this the way I like. So component gives us access to a bunch of Horizon specific things. I try not to be tied into Horizon personally. So what I do instead is I go and create stuff like this. And I make the component properties available outside by doing popup data dot component equals this. And now I have access to like on update, world stuff, pop-up stuff, persistent storage. Lots of great features come with component. And so I've exported that into my popup data file from the popup entity, which then allows us to go into popup function and swap this out with popup data. And now if I replace that everywhere .component was being used, that is going to play the popup. And so there's two types of popups that this file comes with, and it's got a play popup and stuck popup. A stuck popup cannot be overwritten by anything other than another stuck popup, but play popup is just like general stuff. So you have some really important message, you use stuck popup, otherwise you use play popup. Okay, so we're gonna go back into here. We need to create another empty and then attach the popup. Oh, I need to call this popup manager. And then attach the popup entity. There it is. And then we'll move that back to 0, 0, 0. Okay, popup manager has been created. And now what we can do is play the amount of time as a popup that they have been, and that's on the Lava group, open external editor, right? So Lava group is going up and down, and so we don't want to start the motion up until there's a player playing, and we also wanted to increment their time up as they played, which we can do by creating this loop that goes off once per second. So we'll say loop, just like before. We're going to go ahead and type async dot set interval parentheses loop dot bind parentheses this comma 1000. Okay, so now we got our loop set up. And then in loop, we want to increment the player's time up if they are playing. So we say player data map dot, and I want this to be out of sync with other stuff. So I'm going to make this 1001. So ideally this doesn't sync up with the 3000 every so often. So the other one's running at 3000. This will make the syncing like very, very rare. I just don't want race conditions basically, where you might have things happening at the same time and that's like causing unexpected results. So this is going to make our life a little bit easier. What I'm looking at doing in the future is potentially having a place where I organize the scheduling and the timing of things, but not in this world. That's a potential future idea that I'm still working on. So we got player data map dot for each parentheses player data comma player arrow function curly braces semicolon enter, and then what we want to do is say if parentheses player data dot is playing, and if they are playing we want to go to player data dot current playtime plus plus. There we go. So if we have a player playing, we want to increment their playtime upwards. And we want to show them a pop-up to declare that. So we call popup func dot. I just realized that my popup data file is not the format that I like. So we're going to go back to popup data. I like to put underscores. It's a newer thing that I've been doing, but it does mean I need to go fix the popup entity. Underscore data. Underscore data, and I also need to fix the popup function. There we go. And so I do try to kind of keep the same styles across all my scripts. It's tedious, but especially when you change it on the fly. But I think that's the one that I'm going to stick to. I've been changing to that for the last month. Okay, so popup function dot play popup parentheses. We need to pass in the player parameter, who is going to play it. The message is going to be current. So we'll call this time, and then that's going to be with plus player data dot current playtime, and then after that we need the duration in seconds that it's going to play for. We'll do 3 seconds. And then is cross screens. Ooh, we don't have that definition yet. So on our player defs, or player data defs, we need to add is cross screens, and that will be a Boolean. And then on player data entity, when they enter the world, we need to add is cross screens. And this is equal to player dot device type dot get does not equal player device type dot VR. So you are cross screens if you are not in VR. Control save. And then we can call player data dot is cross screens. And was there anything else there? Value. I don't know what value is. Number or undefined? I must have made that for some purpose that I can't remember. Let's find out. Popup func. And popup func says, what is this value? This value comes through and is passed to the play popup, and play popup says, oh, this came from Power Wash because I didn't want to have as many crazy pop-ups. So if the value was the same, it kept it. We're going to get rid of that. Player value map is going to get deleted. We're not going to check last value. We're not going to set last value. We're not going to use this whole section here. Backspace, space, backspace. And we're not going to pass the value parameter. So we can delete that and delete that and delete that and control save. Okay. So now we don't need a value to be passed. Okay, control save. So now we've got the time being sent and played on the pop-up, and the only problem is that we still haven't started based on who is playing, so we need to know the active player count. So we're going to say let active player count equal 0. And then we're going to say when this happens, we also want to take, actually let's put these together because they're related. And then we'll put a space below this and say active player count plus plus, so we'll increment it higher by 1. And then when we're done, we can use that and we can say if parentheses active player count is greater than 0, and then else curly braces. And what we need to know is the previous player count. So we're going to create a local variable, which we'll call previous player count, which will equal 0 by default. And then I like to create some extra space here and there. And then down here, what we're going to say is if, parentheses, previous player count does not equal active player count, meaning there's been a change in the last second. So if there has been a change in our player count, then the first thing we should do is set the previous player count. So we'll say previous player count now equals the active player count. And then if active player count is greater than 0, we actually want to set the previous player count at the bottom, I'm now realizing. Okay, so we're going to set previous player count at the end because we want to say if active player count triple equals 0, meaning we've gone from having players to nothing. That's the only way for this to happen, right? So previous player count would have had to have been positive for this to now equal 0. And if that's the case, we want to reset the game back to our origin position. So we're going to go create a new variable called origin position, which will equal vec3.0 by default. And then on start, we'll set that. So we're going to say origin position equals this dot entity dot position dot get, and then semicolon. And then we want to also save the destination position. So we'll just recreate this real quick, call this destination position. And then this is going to be set as well. So we have this right here being calculated. Control X. We're now going to replace that with destination position. And then up here, we're going to type destination position equals this value we calculated. And we're going to go and move this to inside of this, but we're going to add an else if here, and we'll fill out the if in just a second. Else if parentheses, and then otherwise we want to move it back down to 0, and we're going to copy this, paste it here. So when we equal 0, we want to move to the origin position, and we want to do it fast. So we'll say over 9 seconds, so that should be good. And then else if. So else if is going to say previous player count previous player count, else if the previous player count triple equaled 0. So if previously the player count was 0, and it's now greater than 0, then we want to move this upward. So this will only happen when we have the first player enter the arena. And so that's going to reset the arena for us when the players die. So when there's only one player and they die, it resets the arena. Otherwise, yep. And this over time will overtake it. So if somebody comes back in during the 9 seconds as it's closing, it'll actually start moving up from that current position. So that should be okay. And we can now delete this, Control Save. I think that's it. Cool, so we got our lava over time loop. I'm gonna mark that off on the to-do list. Most time in. Oh, we need to reset the time in. Okay, so when we start moving, when we do start the motion to go up right here, we need to reset everybody's play time. And obviously we want to have player stats in the future and like winners and stuff, but that's not really what we're caring about today, right? Today my goal is to be able to play this game with my daughter, right? So, which is, I think that's a pretty good goal. And so we're going to type player data and then comma player and then arrow function, curly braces. And we're going to go through every player and player data dot current playtime equals 0. So we set them back to 0. So that way when the pop-up comes up, it'll increment correctly. Nice. Okay. Okay, so now we have, let me double check my to-do list. Most time in stones equals when. We haven't really done that. No active player stops the lava. Yes, it does that. First player in starts it, does that. Okay. Time survival pop-up. We did do the pop-up. Center is higher always. Maybe we'll do that last. Okay, this is crazy that this is working. This is so cool. I'm gonna go ahead and hit play. I'm going to go ahead and jump into preview mode. And now the lava has not started rising, which is why you don't see any stones below the lava. Now, as soon as I jump in, the lava is going to start rising. Time 1. Oh, it's time 2. Why did it do time 1 twice in a row? That seemed strange. Could there be a bug there? Ooh, stay alive, stay alive. Okay, we can start seeing the lava coming up. Time 13, time 14. This isn't exactly what I want it to be, right? Like time 17. Like, this is just a demonstration of how the that's not the right Vidyuu blue, by the way. I'm like, that's the wrong blue. It's a cool blue. It's just, oh no. Okay, and that's time 25, and the game's reset. And now if I come in, the lava is lowering. You can kind of see it. And if I jump back in, the lava starts rising, and my time starts over. It's weird. It's showing the previous time. I don't know why. Oh no, okay. It seems to show the previous time for the first one. Why is that? Minimize, go open up VS Code again. So the pop-up says, for each player, call player time plus player data current time. I'm incrementing current time here. We did see 1, but we saw 1 twice. That was the weird thing. Oh, because the game hadn't started yet? No, because it's running this... I think that's it. I think we need to just change the order of this. Oh, but we need to know the active player count. I guess we could run another loop. I don't think these for each loops are terribly expensive because there's only 16 items in the loop. If there was a lot more than 16 items, it gets to be a little bit more costly, but I think we're okay. So, theoretically, the idea is we take this, Control-C, and we move down to the bottom of this, Enter, Enter, and then... That doesn't make sense. Oh, because we're setting current playtime to 0. That's why. Because when we start the lava, we set the playtime to 0. So Control-V, this is outside of the thing, my bad. It needs to go okay, here, Control-V. And then instead of... We don't need to increase active player count anymore, so we can fix that. We just want to show the pop-up, and we want to increment current playtime here. And so we can remove that from, Control-Z. We can remove that from here, and Control-Save. And I think there's actually an easier way to count the number of items that have a thing. It's okay. But I do believe that's going to fix our timing issue. Let's go find out. Clear, and play, and preview. And now we're going to jump in. Oh. Time 1, time 2, there we go, time 3. Let's go ahead and quickly die. Time ends at 5. We jump in, time is going to reset. Time 1, time 2, perfect. Okay, so it was just that order. And I'm pretty confident that's not going to cause any lag. There are some performance tools we can use to check if it's causing lag or not. Kind of curious what the longest amount of time you can survive for is, since I haven't actually had a chance to try. Oh, no. Well, okay, let's see. Center is higher. I want to do that first. So stop, clear. The lower edges, I want to shrink down. So the further away you are from 0, 0, let's quickly find out what that is. I think it's like right here is probably the furthest. And this is set to, give me the position of the group, is 26, 13. So if we imagine that as a diagonal, that's roughly 35. So I don't want to take a ton off. So let's imagine the maximum is a 50-meter distance. And so we're going to go into VS Code, and we're going to look at the stone pillar script. Stone pillar. And basically what I want to have happen is if you are 1 meter away, or excuse me, if you're 50... if you were 50 meters away, it's going to reduce the height by 1 meter. And so we have the scale being set up over here. So how are we going to determine the next scale to include a subtraction of that? So we want to basically say distance adjustment equals 0. And then we need to calculate distance adjustment, which we'll do in start. Move to next position. Yeah, this should be fine. Okay, so we're going to start here and say distance adjustment equals, and so we know that if we divide by 50, that's going to be something. And we need to create parentheses, and we need to say, I'm just kind of sketching right now. We need to find the distance, so we say, the magnitude of this dot entity. So we say this dot entity dot position dot get parentheses dot magnitude. There's not dot get, it's just magnitude needs parentheses after it. Okay. So what we've done is we've gotten the magnitude, which tells us how far away it is from 0, 0, because it's the length of the vector. And then dividing that by 50 means if you were 35 meters away, that's higher. If you're closer to 0, that's lower. So this whole value, I'm going to just put in parentheses for prettiness, Shift-Alt-F. This value will be the distance adjustment. And so over here, when we start scaling, we do have math.max happening to prevent it from going too low. But here, when we're 5 times multiplying times the simplex noise, we want to put parentheses around this, which we're going to follow to the end of the blue parentheses. And then put another set of parentheses around this, and then add minus the distance adjustment. So that means that the center will always be higher. So in the beginning, the idea is that in the beginning, you're going to get all of the tiles will be available, right? But at the end, only the center will be available. That's the idea, at least. So hit play, jump into preview mode, and let's check it out. So we're just gonna see if we can tell any difference here. Does the center look higher by default? It should. Having a hard time seeing it, but I think it'll become much clearer as we play and the lava starts rising. So theoretically, you're going to want to stay towards the center. The reason I wanted to do this was so that playing at the end of the game, like staying alive is a lot easier than getting back in. So if you were trying to get back in and ideally the edges should have been, maybe I need to do more. Trying to find ones I can survive on. I need to stay more towards right here in the center. So the edges are supposed to fall off maybe a little bit more than they currently are. So we might want to subtract more. Oh wow, this is so good. 50 seconds, 51 seconds, 52 seconds. Okay, that was pretty good. Not even gonna lie. Okay, so now the lava is shrinking, which is actually kind of fun to watch it recede. But the funny thing is, if you jump in, it just starts at that level. So like, don't jump in, and then somebody jumps in. Like that could be a fun little mechanic in and of itself, actually. Yeah, let's go increase the amount of fall off. And the way that we do that is pretty simple. We're just going to take this number, and we're gonna, for the sake of seeing this value, we're gonna change this to be divided by 10, so it's a lot more visible. This should be insanely visible, and then we'll try to find a better in between. So I believe this is 5 times more visibility than before. So we'll go ahead and hit play now, jump into preview mode, and what we can see is, I think the edge, I'm already dead, Okay, we're alive. Yeah, I think it's a lot more noticeable. I think we also need to create, I need to write this down. I believe this noise function is running the exact same pattern every single game. So we need to change, because you could memorize which tiles are going to be up at the very end of the first 50 seconds. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Okay, so this is seemingly working, right? Like the edges, a lot more of the center is in. Oh no, oh! Yeah, so it was really the center that was in, and as we see the lava recede, we can start seeing the edges start to come back. Okay, cool. I like that. Actually, I think we should just stick with that. That seemed pretty solid. It does mean we get these kind of flat zones, but I think that's okay. But that's only really visible when the game hasn't started because the lava overtakes it, and that's because we're using scale with that math.max, which creates a minimum. So, okay, cool. Stopping world, I love it. Center is always higher, that should be fun. I do need to get going. I needed to add a lava sound effect, death sound effects, haptics, visual effects. Most time in turns into a win. We're not doing that right now. We do have the pop-up, which is kind of a decentness for now. Let me check my time. 9:01. Having an hour to get ready to run out the door. I can't wait. Like I said, I got that builder bug. I can't wait to do another video on this. There was something I had in my mind. I think the death sound effects is a good idea to do real quick. Let me check off. I have two checklists for this world. So we have, we're not doing random base texture because the texture load time was too slow. Random base color, we're kind of doing it. I kind of like the way it looks, so we'll stick with that. Walk around the top wall, that's now possible. Progressively higher layers, we did that where you have kind of like this tiered. I like that tiering. We haven't done JSON player persistent variables yet. That'll be for another day. Center is last. We did that. Built-in sudden death, falling outer ring. Yeah, that worked. Mildly. It worked mildly. Okay. Oh, right, the random. That's what I said. I forgot. Sometimes I forget what I say because my brain runs a little faster than I'd like it to. So the problem was that the Perlin noise needs a seed value, and we haven't created that seed. And so that it looks different every game. And we have our lava group entity. I think we're going to use this lava group entity to create a seed value. And the stone pillars each had their own I value, which doesn't make that much sense because of that. So what we want to do is create a file. And yes, this will work. Okay, because when the world generates this, yes, okay, this will work. Create new script called stone pillar underscore data, and so this file will get initialized when the world starts, and we can use a math.random in it. So stone pillar underscore data, open an external editor, and then Control A backspace, and then call export constant stone pillar underscore data equals curly braces, and then we just want one piece of data in here, so I'm just going to fill it out, which is the random seed, which will be math.random multiplied by, I don't know, a million? 1, 2, 3. There we go. Oh, and then comma. Okay. So random seed is a number because it's math.random multiplied by 1 million. So it'll be some number between 0 and a million with decimal places. Control save. Okay, so stone pillar data has been set up, and we can then call that on start. So here on start, we're going to say I equals stone pillar data dot random seed. So it starts, and that's this dot I. So it starts at that random seed, and now every game should be different. Cool. Let's minimize that. And the last thing we're going to do is that death sound effects, haptics, and visual effects. And because I think that'll be great too. Hit play. Okay, and then hit stop. Hit play. That looked different? Seemed like it was different. Oh yeah, these are very different. Okay, cool. Just for reference, let's do that same exact thing without a seed. So let's comment out the seed. Control save. So we're not using seed, we're just starting at 0, and I believe it looks the same every single time, which is why we've implemented a seed. So we hit play, looks like that. Stop, play. Looks like it's the exact same. play again. Yeah. So that's why we have a random seed, because Perlin noise is amazing, but it literally is not random noise. It is noise that you can generate if you wanted to. Like, I could post the seed publicly, and they could mark it down and theoretically enter it again to play the same map or the same. But like, that doesn't make sense for this game. For other games, totally makes sense, but not for this game. Okay. So happy with that, though. Okay, dokie, okie dokie dokie, okie dokie dokie. Last thing is the death, visual effects, sound effects, and haptics, which is going to happen on the lava trigger. So we're going to go grab that lava trigger respawn and redo that one real quick. Okay. I'm closing out of everything else. Oh, man. This is going great. I cannot believe we got most of the stuff I wanted to get done. I don't know how long we've been recording. An hour and 15 minutes. Not bad, not bad. This is pretty solid. We're doing pretty good. Hope you guys are enjoying this, and it's helpful if you're getting started. Please do feel free to leave comments and let me know how it's going. And let's get this last little bit here. So we need the death sound effects. We need the death VFX, and we need the forgot to type in all the important stuff. Curly braces, type, prop, types.entity, and then we'll highlight this, Control C, Control V. So we got our death sound effects, our death visual effects, and now when the player enters the trigger, we want to play those. I don't think I brought in my action utilities file. I only have these utilities. I have so many utility files, guys. Like I said, I normally bring in at least 20 scripts, so we're going to go grab that real quick. Right click, reveal in File Explorer. We're going to head back out here to Dungeons, where I believe I have my action utilities. So util, action, Control C, back, Control V, and now that we have that, we should see that in our drop-down. And util action has play sound effects for duration, play VFX, play haptics. This one does say that it needs component for some reason. This is for async set timeout to play sound effects for duration. I am going to hack this together for today and use the Popup functions. Popup data. Oops. Popup data as component. There we go. just for saving us some time right now. But there we go. So our play sound effects is all set up. It's got sound effects for duration, play visual effects, and play haptics. Nice. Okay. So now what we want to do is go into Breathe Lakes. We're in the lava trigger respawn, and when we teleport the player to a random spawn point, we also want to do some cool stuff. And I kind of want to do this stuff before, because I'm thinking chronologically. So we call action utils dot play sound effects parentheses, and this is the props dot death sound effects. The position needs to be defined, so let's create a death position equals, and I forgot to put a constant before that, and that equals player dot position dot get. The interesting thing about that is we are updating the player's position 3 times per second. So if we think that is frequent enough, we could get that position. Although I think this is probably better, so we'll do that in case they're falling super fast or something crazy. So we got death position equals player position dot get, and then we're going to play this at the death position. Okay, and then Control C, Control V. Now we have VFX. There it is, play VFX, and we want to play that on the VFX and at the same death position. And now that we've played those effects, we also want to play haptics, which I believe is built in. So we're going to say action utils dot play haptics parentheses. We need to provide the player, and then we need to provide an array. And inside this array, we provide the number, which is the duration. So that's going to be 750 milliseconds. The haptic strength, so we'll type haptic strength dot, and we'll do this one at strong, right? You're dying. And then haptic sharpness is going to be rough. So we'll do coarse. And then after that, we type undefined, which means that this is going to play on both hands, left and right hand. Okay. Alrighty, so player enters trigger, we play some effects, we play some haptics, we get a random spawn point and teleport them to it. Nice. We're going to go ahead and close out of this for now. And we just need to go on our trigger. Here it is, lava group, lava trigger. And we now need to reference these two things. We don't have a death effects yet. I like to use random like, ah! But for now we're just going to use kind of a sizzle, like a shh. So let's see if I can go to my AI audio generation and type 3 seconds. And this is going to be very hot sizzle of bacon on frying pan. This is what somebody dying sounds like, guys. All right, so we got a few to choose from. Not hot enough. I think this is it. Okay. We need to go to our assets, open up the folder that we want this to be saved into. So I got Gotta Lotta Lava open, and then 3 dots, saved asset library. I'm gonna go ahead and close out of generative AI. There it is. Bacon sizzles on pan. That's such a funny name for this sound effect. So I'm gonna pull that out. This is going to get moved around. We're just going to call this death sound effects. And then we're going to first put it on global just so I can hear it for now. And then I'm going to change the pitch to be -8 and then hit play. That's not bad. How about -16? That's horrifying. I love it. Volume randomness. I didn't know you could do this. 0.5. This must be a brand new feature. Pitch randomness. Maybe like 4. Hit play. I don't know how these pitch randomnesses work. I've never seen it before. I'm going to change volume randomness to be like 0.3. I change this to be like 8. Does that? Oh, 4 seems to be the max. Okay. We'll leave it. Global DOF, minimum distance is going to be 0. So if you're right there, it's very directional. Maximum distance 100. We'll do 75. And that's our death sound effect. I'm going to move it to 000 just to have it out of way for now. And then we'll go on to our lava trigger. And then death sound effects, we can just type death. There it is. And now we need to go to our death VFX. So we'll go to the build, gizmos. There's the typical visual effects, but we got some new ones recently added. So join the MHCP to get access to these VFX. And we've got some steam, explosion, leaves, muzzle flashes, dust, smoke. Let's check smoke out. And I haven't gone through all of these yet, so we'll try smoke chimney. No play on start. Hit play. Okay, so the problem is this doesn't stop after a delay. So you have to manually stop it, but like that's not bad when a player goes out like that with the sizzle. So what we need to do is quickly modify our script. In the action utils, let's see, we go to action utils and open an external editor. We already did this for playing sound effect with delay. So we're just going to create a similar one, Control C, for play VFX with duration. So enter, and then we'll change this to play VFX for duration. FX is going to be a particle gizmo, and then fx position.set as particle gizmo dot play, and then as particle gizmo dot stop, and then export this, Control C, play VFX, Control V, comma, Control save, head back over to our lava respawn trigger, and then change it to be play VFX for duration, which then needs to know the duration in seconds, which is going to be, we'll say 4 seconds. All right, Control save. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, I love it. So now we're going to play that visual effects for duration at the position, and we're going to use this, which we'll call the def VFX. Got smoke chimney. We're going to move this to 0, 0, 0, and then we're going to go down to our. I also want to unlink these. I see that this one's linked. Right click. Oh, it doesn't let me. Okay. Let's run to the top. Lava trigger. Select def VFX, and I wish I had more players to be able to see this in action. Hit play, jump into preview mode, because I'm going to get teleported, so I don't get to see it. Okay, here we go, and then we'll try to... Where is it? Oh, where is it? I can hear it. I can't see it. Oh, I'm looking in the wrong spot, because I forgot that we spawn in different spots every time. Okay, so edge of the world, looking out. I don't see it. No, I don't see it. Oh, where is it? What if this isn't a particle gizmo? Oh, wait, no, there it is. Oh, there it is. Oh my gosh, that was so fun. Okay. Oh yeah, look at that. I also want to add one additional VFX. So this is going to be a little bit more classic. The more effects, the better. Okay, trust me. Trust me, more effects are better. So lava trigger respawn, open external editor. And we are missing kind of a couple more sounds. So we're just going to Control C, Control V, Control C, Control V, and I want Death Sound Effects 2 and Death VFX 2. Control save. This will be worth it. Play sound effects, Control C, Control V, Death Sound Effects 2, and then we're going to do Death VFX, Control C, Control V, Death VFX 2. This one will not be a duration. This is just going to be play VFX, Control save. All right, we just need to reference these now. And so what we really need in our gizmos, we have the particle effects gizmo, which has a property called, we'll call this Death VFX2, and this has the option for hit ring, which I think is going to just go really nicely because it'll go like it'll show them kind of getting zapped a little bit. The smoke poof wouldn't be too bad either, but I think hit ring is going to be better. And then we don't want play on start. We're going to set this to 0, 0, 0. I hope the scale is okay. I might have to adjust that later. And then the last bit was we need this kind of like sound effect. So we'll go to our AI sounds again because I like that it's unique. And we're going to do boulder hits lava. Boulder falls and boom, falls and hits lava hard. And we'll make this a 3-second, 2-second maybe? Boulder falls and hits lava hard. Generate. Okay. Play. None of those are really what I want. Let's try again and say massive thud of rock on concrete. Massive thud of rock on concrete. Generate. Really want that kind of crunchy sound. Okay, that was rocks. it's also rocks. It's not bad though. You could imagine that as like a bubbling sound. Okay, okay, okay. I'm feeling it. Save to asset library. You know, it wasn't what I wanted, but I think that could do the trick. All right, here it comes. Rock hits concrete loudly is what it called it. And we'll pull that out. All right, so we're gonna zoom in here so we can hear it better. We're gonna change the distance to 0.75 just like before. We're going to change the volume randomness to 0.3, pitch randomness to 2, change the pitch to minus... Actually, I was thinking positive 2. Let's start with minus 2 and see what that's like. Change the volume to 0.5. It's a little loud. No, it's too quiet. 0.6. Okay. And then pitch, probably up to 5. 16. Ooh. Let's try 12. Change the volume to 0.4. And then you get the bacon sizzle right after that. There it is. Death sound effects 2. All right, move that to 0, 0, 0. All right, now let's go back to our trigger. Then I think I've got to call it there for today. This has been great. We'll just type in sound effects. Sound effects 2. Type in VFX 2. All right, hit play. Jump into preview mode. Jumping in. Still alive, still alive. That extra long, like... Okay, you know what? I think it might be good. Okay, so here's what I want to do. I want to be able to see it like as if I was a player that wasn't dying. And to do that, we're just going to comment out the teleporting. So we're just going to type / control save. And then let's see what this is like if I was there watching this happen. That's the idea, at least. Clear. Do we actually have a... There's no warnings. Okay, it was just like something from before. Check the preview mode. Here we go. I could kind of feel like that could be lower. The circle. I can't get out. I can't get out. Like, the circle seems a little big. I like the sizzle smoke. I think we should change it from... so Death VFX 2, instead of doing hit ring, let's try smoke poof. Let's just try it. Jump into preview mode, see what this looks like. Jumping in. And... yeah, that's better. And then you get that little, like... Okay, yeah, that was it. As much as I love the hit ring, that poof of smoke is great for disappearing the body. And then you get the little, like, trail afterward. Okay, I love it. Stop. Oh my gosh, this is so great. I'm having so much fun. I have the biggest smile on my face right now. Death VFX, sound effects, and haptics are done. The big thing that we're missing in here that I was hoping to find, but I don't know where I'd find it, would be, where do they store sounds? Sounds. I want like a kind of like lava. There it is. Would you look at that? There it is. All right, we're gonna move this way above the world. So we're gonna go position 0. We'll go up about 50, go 0. We're gonna change the distance to 150, the minimum distance 0. The randomness doesn't apply. Volume 0.4. Play on start, and this should be like a continuous looping forever. It's very low. That's kind of the idea. And I'm realizing I shouldn't put it above the world. I should have put it below the world. My bad. Let's move that position to 0. Because that way it'll sound like it's coming from down below. I was thinking of it being like an ambient sound effect, like a wind howling. But the... There it is. Then you come in. I don't think it's loud enough, but until I play this in VR or on my phone a little bit more, I don't really know. I'm going to try 0.6. Play. Ooh! I love that sound. Now we mix that with a little, yeah, a little death sound effect. That bacon sizzle, you're never going to unhear it, but if you didn't know. Oh, man. Oh, this is too much fun. Oh, man. I can't believe I have to go drive for 8 to 10 hours. I would so much rather be playing this game for the next 8 to 10 hours. Oh, this is so much fun. Okay. No! And then the lava recedes. Ah! I can't believe it. Alright guys, I have to end it there. I gotta get going, I gotta finish packing. Ah, that was so much fun! So, lava sound effects. I did all the things on my checklist. I can't believe we finished this check. Like, this was a lot. I did not think we were gonna get through that all today. So, awesome job, us. Still have my double note card that I'm working on. This is kind of like the main one. It's got some really cool things I'd love to get to, maybe in the next one, like JSON player persistent variables, leaderboards, resetting leaderboards, an instructions board, stats board. Those are kind of the main things, actually. I can probably make a new singular sticky note. But I'll probably have more ideas coming up too, so I can't wait. I'm hoping to find time on this trip to make some tutorials. They might be scripting only, because I can just like on my Mac screen record and then just do some coding. And so maybe we'll see some of that. I don't know. I have no clue. But I hope you enjoy this. Please do let me know if it's helpful and valuable, because that's very helpful to me to know that you want to see more content like this. All right. I will see you in the next one. Bye!